Welcome everybody to What in the World with David Roberts. And tonight's episode is on attracting influencers. Normally, David is introduced as a seasoned business leader and visionary with over 45 years of experience in business development, consulting, and enterprise transformation. All of that's true. However, today, for this series of 30-minute transformative shows focused on attracting influencers, I want to give you a little more insight into his unique qualifications with respect to this topic. Throughout Dave's career, and especially today, his unique value lies in connecting the dots. He has a demonstrated track record of high performance and strategic transformation with leaders and organizations across all industries and sizes. His latest journey of impact over the last 18 years has focused on enabling aspiring leaders to live their dreams through his proprietary Vision Challenge. During 33 years in corporate America, Dave has held senior leadership positions with GM, EDS, and Accenture. As the Vice President of Strategic Sales at EDS, he helped reposition EDS as a leader in the mega deal market segment. That's the $1 billion plus deals. And as a senior partner at Accenture, he led outsourcing sales and business development. When you connect with Dave in his Warrior Networking community and now on BeeKonnected, you will quickly realize that, as he often says, this isn't his first rodeo. And this truly is why BeeKonnected is the right time and the right place for him and for you to focus on attracting influencers. So with that, I would like to introduce my husband, Dave Roberts.
Thank you, Cheryl. That was awesome. And we are a great example of a couple on BeeKonnected here. So I appreciate your support. I'm glad you're here as my wing person tonight. So thank you for being my wing. And that is so awesome that we could have this opportunity to do this together. And that's one of the things with BeeKonnected is we have that flexibility. Let's talk about this. We had an episode on Monday, and so I'm going to reflect back on our agenda. Now, we're only going to get into and discuss probably a part of what I call the attraction mindset. We did talk about influencers, and I think as we were going through, we had pretty much come to the conclusion, and if you didn't see that episode, it's up on our BeeKonnected channel. I strongly encourage you to talk about that because influencer has gotten a kind of a brand or a name today that really makes it seem like it's unique. And it is when you talk about social media and that whole world, but we're social business, and influencers have been around business forever. And so it's not, and in fact, influencers in the business arena are much more than just somebody who gets attention to your product or service. We're going to talk then about, we talked about what that is, and we came to a conclusion really in this, that here's what an influencer in today's world, it's a lot of popularity influencers. In our last episode, we talked about influencers who have specific expertise that people want to get, whether they see them on YouTube or Facebook or TikTok or wherever it is. And then, but the most important thing when you're talking about business, you're looking to attract influencers, especially in BeeKonnected, it kind of boils down to credibility. The interesting thing is their discussion said, kind of focused on, and we got to the very end, and it was, are you an influencer? And the question you ask yourself is why or why not? Really, everybody, we concluded, is an influencer. It's just how much influence you have and how much you're using it. So today, we talk about attracting influencers, and we're going to talk about 5 different mindsets. We're going to talk specifically about the first 4. When we get to the 5th one, you'll see that is kind of the mindset that I personally utilized, and reason why Cheryl shared the part of my background that was related to the billions of dollars, over $50 billion of deals or relationships that I was able to be involved in selling and attracting to my companies during that time. So I really want you to understand, and I'm going to share with you first those concepts, and then we'll get into subsequent episodes where we're talking about how to use my approach, the approach that I use, and maybe adapt some of your strengths and your mindset to that. So let's get right into it and talk first of all about the reactive problem solver. So what does that look like? The reactive problem solver. That really is a sales approach that some people use. So think about, one of the things I want you to do as we're going through this is really think about what it is and how you would approach somebody who has influence, somebody that you're seeking to build a relationship with, and do that in a very effective way. So if you tend to default in a mindset to being a reactive problem solver, and a lot of salespeople do, a lot of people who are trying to get deals done, get things closed or whatever in the process, it's really where the salesperson or the person that's you are trying to respond to the needs and the problems that are really presented by the customer. So you might encounter somebody who says, I really have a problem with Zoom, or I really have a problem with connecting, whatever it might be. And then you react to that and say, hey, I've got an answer. Let me help you. And then you can continue to follow up and give that to them as they request it. The challenge is, because by definition it's reactive, then it really isn't proactive. But let's talk about that. The one thing it does really is I really demonstrates the good thing about it is, if you're a problem solver, if you're focused, you're kind of letting them pull you and you help them get to the conclusion of, yeah, we need BeeKonnected, or we need this solution. Your attentiveness to customer needs or to their needs is going to build that level of trust. It's going to make them feel like you're in it for them. It can really, you can look at specific challenges that they're facing, and you can help them do that in a positive way. But however, as I said before, it lacks proactivity. So really identifying and addressing potential issues that they might encounter with using our solution or using our product is kind of tough. The other thing is, it relies very heavily on them reaching back to you. So you're saying, here's how I support it. So that's that approach. And again, I'm saying that can be helpful, and actually you can go on a journey of trust. So what I want you to do in this show or this session is kind of make note of these approaches, kind of first identify what kind of feels like you, what you're comfortable with, and then we'll go along and I'll give you some other ways to approach influencers or bringing people on board with BeeKonnected. So the mindset of a lone wolf. This is one, and there are many, many very successful salespeople, if you will, that are, I would call lone wolf. In fact, I worked with a guy back when I was doing the mega deal stuff, and his last name was Wolf, and he was very, very talented. He could really talk about anything in the industry. He knew everything. He was very good at relating to the customer himself, but he didn't always anticipate or whatever. The lone wolf is the good thing is you can, especially in a self-driven environment like BeeKonnected, when if you're out there trying to build your community, build your impact, build your following, hit your goals, is it can actually be somewhat freeing, and you can make quick decisions. You don't have to bring other people along. You can get things done. That's the strength. The weakness, if you will, is really the lack of collaboration, or the limited collaboration that a lone wolf approach tends to get. So you say, well, I've got it all figured out. We've seen people in every community or network, people are saying, yeah, I don't need help. I got it. Here's what I'm doing. Either get on board or get off. It's very much that kind of thing. And some people relate to that. So again, I'm not saying none of these mindsets work, but the question is, what is going to be the most effective, attraction mindset to take into a relationship where you're trying to target influencers, people who have already a large audience, have large impact, maybe a large company, those kinds of things. So the limited collaboration and the opportunity to miss things because they just didn't appear to you, or looking at from a different angle. So that can be a challenge. The third area that we'll talk about is the hard worker. Now, I love hard workers, people who get in, they roll up their sleeves, and they do everything they possibly can to make, if they're trying to have a relationship with me, and I feel like they're working hard for me, whether they're an employee or they're a prospective partner or collaborator, it really, they put in extra hours, they focus on exceeding your expectations, your sales targets, whatever they might be, for both the client and the company. So that demonstrates a commitment, dedication, really, to achieving those goals for both you and your company and your client, and being persistent at that. Obviously, when we talk about BeeKonnected being in early stages and stuff, the thing is that willingness to continue powering forward can result in that long-term success. However, which we've also seen on this platform, and you always see in this journey of through the market or technology adoption curve that we've talked about before, being in the early stage or the innovator stage or the early adopter stage of what we're doing, right? You get burned out. You're working at it, you're trying to make things happen, then it's just you're putting in extra hours, and eventually it wears out. You get burnt out, and there's people that have gotten burnt out along the way, and you can understand that. So that's one of the challenges there. Talking about another attraction mindset, and really the one that probably I would say, as I've moved into my journey of impact in the last 15 years, I would say the relationship builder is what I've invested a lot of time into. They're really this approach prioritizes the development, maintaining strong personal relationships. We talk about BeeKonnected being social business. So the social part of it, that's really kind of implies that we're all about kind of building those relationships. So a relationship builder, you're going to see a lot of those folks on this platform, and they're very fun to be with. It's an awesome attribute of people on this platform, and it can and does attract these kind of influencers at times. And so that isn't a bad strategy. So if that's your relationship part and focused on long-term relationships, that's a beautiful thing. The strength of that is you can establish really strong rapport and trust with your customers, with people, these influencers that you're targeting. So they begin to trust you, so that when maybe things are a little tough, they at least trust you enough, and they know you have a relationship. They know they can leverage that. It's really well suited for BeeKonnected and social business types of environments where you're really trying to establish that rapport. However, it really tends to take a lot more time to really develop and close transactions. And you say, well, I'm not in it just for the close or the sale. I'm not treating this as a transaction. And that's kind of what you'll hear me saying a lot of the time. But it's still, there's a balance that's required. And that is really understanding that ultimately we need to get people on the BeeKonnected platform that are paying. They see the value, they understand the impact, they understand what they're missing, and they realize they can't really do it as efficiently, effectively, or even at all, if you will, on other platforms, or what they are comfortable with today, if that makes sense. So, and that can take a long time because you're building the relationship and they're saying, yeah, I like you, I know this is great, but that's a lot of work. I don't want to change. And so really navigating the process of change, back to my previous life where I was doing large scale, multi-billion dollar outsourcing transactions. Those transactions really required a process of developing a relationship. You had to build a relationship, but it wasn't just playing golf with the CEO or the customer, because you could be the best golfer in the world. They could have the most fun hanging out with you and really like you. Maybe you're in their networking group already, or maybe you're a big fan, or maybe you're buying into their program. You're part of their audience, part of the people that you're giving them money and those kinds of things, right? As an influencer, a lot of times you're looking to, and you get excited when those people pay attention to you and you do it. But the thing is, getting them to embrace a change, a movement, if you will, from doing business the way they're doing it today and them to doing the business the way they could do it if they had all the capabilities and were part of this BeeKonnected community. That part, it takes can take a lot longer to get to there, because they see you as somebody that they like, they enjoy, probably respect and trust, but they're not ready to, kind of make the change that you're really needing them to make in order for the transaction to become one where they get on BeeKonnected, they bring their community, as we talk about, and those kinds of things. And the last one I'm going to talk about, and this is really the one that we're going to invest our time, at least in the next, well, for a while here, is what I call, and what has been called, I didn't make it up, by the way, the Challenger sales approach. There's a book out there called The Challenger Sale, and Matthew Dixon, Brett Anderson, we used that approach. It's a kind of a consultative approach that we used in Accenture. When I helped Accenture build the outsourcing practice, Accenture, if you don't know, used to be Anderson Consulting. They were a consulting company. And when they recruited me out of another company, GMEDS, where I was doing their largest deals and building the largest relationships and helping people connect to, the CEOs in a way that actually had them come with us and do things our way. Accenture was known as a consulting company, and making that, really probably the most of those folks were relationship builders and very hard workers. Being a consultant is really a tough gig. And a lot of them, were lone wolves. They were known for they're some of the smartest people on the planet. So I can't say anything bad about them. The reactive people were usually lower level people, but the partners and people that I worked with there we're very much strong relationship builders. But when you came into the area of large scale outsourcing and working with your clients, now you're working with them to change the way they're doing things. It's not just a consulting project that you can get the money for and then come back when they don't do it and make more money on the project. This is something where it really had to work. So that's why the challenger sales approach, or the challenger mindset, is critical when you're dealing with influencers or people that have a large amount of success. They have success in doing what they're doing. They may not like everything, but they are successful in doing what they're doing and building their audience. They may have millions of followers if they're your local Accenture or your local thinking of social media influencers. The other thing is, but if they're have a large organization, let's say they're providing real value now. It's not just that they're getting people to buy a product or people listen to them or watch their show, or whether it's a radio show or a podcast or whatever it might be, follow them on TikTok, follow them on Facebook, whatever they might be following. See, that's social media. And those people are only inspired to do things that they can see the results. So the challenging is really, it involves these areas, and we're not going to get into them in depth because we've only got 3 minutes. And I do want to, and maybe a little more than 3 minutes because we started a little late, but it won't be much more than that. So I won't be able to get into these. So I'm just going to hit the areas, and we'll come back to these on next Monday on our show at 1:30 Central Daylight Time, where we'll talk about this mindset and approach that we're going to talk about in terms of challenger, in terms of that. And it involves these areas that are real assets, if you will, to the challenger approach. It gives you an opportunity. People that are good teachers, tailoring the solution, are really adept. People, they're a challenger is somebody who can teach customers about their industry. So if you're going after, let's say, an influencer that has some specific expertise, and you want to challenge them and give them a solution, a better solution, a better way of doing things, a more cost-effective way, a more market beneficial way, creating more market share, more revenue, all these things, right, that you can do. You really need to understand how BeeKonnected, in this case, because we're on the BeeKonnected platform, how we can in turn help them to customize what we have and help them do what they need to do better. And that requires maybe some challenging. David Dubbs and other people that we've had brought in here does a good job of giving you a vision of what might be with our new tools. But still, you have to continue to challenge, work with them, challenging their assumptions. A lot of people will come in at the top level, and they've been doing it for some period of time, right? They're good at doing what they're doing, but you have to challenge their assumptions. The only way you can challenge their assumptions is basically being in studying their business, understanding. So it does take work. Let me tell you that getting a large group of people to move onto this platform and begin to use this tool, this tool set, if you will, to help their business is going to require you actually getting in and challenging what they're currently doing and having the strength and the knowledge to do that, and then helping them begin to see what you can see. The cool thing about the challenger approach is it enables you to control a sale, and you can build this constructive tension. That's why Accenture is now the number one company in outsourcing, where they weren't when I joined them back in 2001. And not because I did it, it's because they embraced this approach where you take people, consultants who are experts, they've become experts in oil and gas or in one area of one industry or another, one vertical, as we called it. And then you bring in somebody who's an expert in how to deliver the business processes and the capabilities to ultimately deliver better and more cost-effective results. You marry those two together in a challenger approach, but that creates this constructive tension where eventually you're going to say, okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to go through this pain of change, by the way, that, making a change of the magnitude that some of these influencers are going to have to make to embrace BeeKonnected or another major change to what they're doing today really isn't just oh, I'm excited, this is great. It is really, they are looking at the work. So you've got to challenge them, you got to help them, you got to educate them, and you've got to really emphasize the economic value. So that's why when we go through the process, and we'll talk about that in future shows, where JR talks about, the 5 touches or 7 touches or however many touches you want to make. The point is you're trying to get to a relationship where they now know enough to be able to talk about the economic value. What is the return on my investment in this change, what am I going to get out of it? It's not just a feature or function. It's really business value. The whole thing is if you're a challenger, guess what? You're going to get somebody pushing back. So again, you've got to be ready to be adaptable and responsive when they say, yeah, I get that, but here's a little bit more information. The cool thing is it's a learning process. We'll get into a little more of that. It's a collaborative approach. I was talking to Christine Deane. She's not here tonight, but we were talking about somebody that might partner with BeeKonnected. And the key is it was all talking about collaboration, how we could work together, how we could move. It's going to be the case in every one of these influencers that we're talking to. So you understand that challenging approach. And if you're not comfortable with that, then you need to come back to other episodes, because I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I did it in the area that I was in, how it created the results that I enjoyed, and also understand that you can do it too. It's not that hard, but you need to know the process. So that's why we're going to get into the process and so on. And then finally, you got to focus on teaching them how to use the tools that we have. That's why we have Elite 100 coaches, is because it's our job as we bring anybody in, not necessarily influencers, anybody. By the way, we established in the first session, we're all influencers. So everybody here on the platform is influenced. It's really just the size of the audience makes it more and more important to have this kind of challenger mindset as we go through the process of bringing them on board to BeeKonnected. So let me go back to the first slide and just tell you where we're going to go with this, because we are going to have to land the plane for this episode. And that is, this was kind of focused on the attraction mindset. So when people think of sales, when they think of going after, if you will, influencers, these are the types of ways people think of it. We don't all think of it the same way. And I'm going to go into the next session. Really, we're going to talk about approach. How do you use this challenger approach? How do you tee up and make happen this movement of somebody from what they're doing today to BeeKonnected? So we're going to be talking about that approach, and ultimately we'll talk about the process within BeeKonnected that we're all using or should be using to implement that kind of approach and create the environment. But this isn't for everybody. So if you're a coach, you're wanting to be one of the top 20 in BeeKonnected, I'm ready to help anybody here generate generational wealth and capabilities for themselves and the people they bring into our community along the road. So I appreciate everybody being here. I know this episode was a little different. I wanted to be teaching myself. And so I'm going to throw it back to Cheryl to say, is there anything here that I went through from your perspective that was unclear? Because we're married. I say a lot of things, and she says, I know you intended to say this, but I don't get it. Is there anything that I in that process that I went through relatively quickly that maybe didn't make sense to you, or that I could clarify better?
I didn't see anything that didn't make sense. I think there was a question about the Challenger book that you mentioned, or the Challenger series. Is that something you would recommend? And if so, maybe you could, follow up with who the author was or what that
Well, the
book was.
book is called, the book is called The Challenger Sale, and it's been around for a long time, so it's not new. We used it again in basically as I was building people to work in the outsourcing area, working with Accenture and stuff. It really came into play back in that time frame, back in the early 2000s, and that book we used as kind of a model. And I'm going to take my experience with applying that model, which isn't necessarily goes exactly by the book, but is kind of my application of that. And then also we're going to get into the process of implementing that kind of approach if you choose to, which I believe will be massively successful. So that's why I want everybody that wants to choose it and do it, so I can help them, so we can build this community to millions of people on the platform. But the author is Matthew Dixon and Brent Adamson. So it's The Challenger Sale, and it's Matthew Dixon and Brett Anderson. So if you've been in a sales organization, you've had a sales manager, you've done, I don't care whether it's direct sales or whatever you've done along the way, you need to elevate your thinking, in my opinion, to leverage some of the things that I hopefully can teach you through these sessions. And we'll talk about it. Some of our other sessions are going to be a little more interactive, especially during the 1:30 on Monday timeframes, because I usually have more on. And if you're a coach on this platform and you want to be on stage with me, if you want to talk with, be part of this whole movement that I'm trying to create on this, just feel free to reach out to me and we'll make that happen. But thank you, Cheryl, for.
Oh, one more thing. Wendy had mentioned that she really loves the approach of building relationships. And I think you're going to cover this in a future session, but how do you do that with influencers that you don't know? So
yeah,
I think she's teeing you up for
well, I love that question. I think that's absolutely the right question to ask, because I would say that almost categorically, and Wendy and I have met. She's awesome, and she's good at building relationships. And the key is, how do you use the relationship approach, which, by the way, the Challenger approach requires relationship. You can't get into the Challenger mode without building a relationship. Okay, so building a relationship, and we can talk about some process and how to go about that as we go into future sessions. So thank you, Wendy, and I would love to have you on some of those subsequent shows where we can kind of apply some of those things for you.
Very good. Well, thank you, Dave. I think it was a great session, and I look forward to the continued series.
Yeah, we're going to have fun with this. Life is too short not to have fun. And some of my mentors have already told me, including Tanya, and as we're talking with JR and the 1% Club and stuff, to me, this is a part of my tool bag that I haven't really pulled out until now with BeeKonnected. I've made reference to it many times that, hey, this isn't my first rodeo, and I know exactly kind of what we're going into here. And so I don't want to just do it myself. I want everybody here to be equipped to do their part, and let's fill this tide and rise the tide so everybody's boat floats higher. And so that's what I want to do. So thank you for being here. Appreciate everybody that joined us tonight. Thank you, Zip. Thank you, Cheryl, for your help. Wendy, thank you. And this will be up on replay shortly on our channel. So feel free, share it with your groups, share it with other groups. Let people know where we're going with this, because a lot of times you just don't, there's so much good stuff out there that we all want to participate in that they might miss it. And there's no advantage for anybody else to miss something where we can help each other get going. So I appreciate everybody being here again, and we'll see you back Monday at 1:30 Central Daylight Time. And we are on Daylight Time now, by the way, in case you missed it. All right. Talk to you later.
Bye, everyone.